In today's reading, you'll be hearing the prayer of Solomon that he gives when he dedicates the temple to God. It makes me think of our own places of worship and how wonderful and unique they all are. I get to have the privilege of traveling between churches, but most of you have probably never even seen what the other churches in our regional ministry look like. So let me tell you a bit of their history and what makes their sanctuaries special. I'll start with St. Andrew's, Edmonton. St. Andrew's began in 1913 and was named Grierson Presbyterian at the time. They built a small frame building which in 1925 got moved to a new location. They had picked up the building, literally, and rolled it down the avenue. They had to cut the streetcar wires in order to do that. In 1956, they constructed a new building that was on 118th Avenue, and that older building of theirs became the home of Calvin Hungarian. St. Andrew's Sanctuary is unique for its high pulpit. It's very high pulpit. I did try preaching up there for a bit, but from there, you can barely see if people are keeping their eyes open. The high pulpit is a tradition that you see in Europe, which I assume is what inspired them. And it's this statement about the importance of hearing the Word of God preached. The same year that St. Andrew's started, that's 1913, Westmount Presbyterian began their ministry. They have a similar story as St. Andrew's because they too changed their locations. They started in the Westmount neighborhood of Edmonton, moved once in 1922, and then moved again in 1957. And so that's just a year after St. Andrew's moved to their current building. Westmount changed neighborhoods, but they didn't change names, which gives me a little bit of a chuckle every time I tell someone that they'll find Westmount in North Glenora. In 2017, Westmount's old building was reconstructed as a new facility. It was Canada's first net zero church, and it created much needed social housing for large newcomer families. One of the special features of the new building is the wooden roof that was constructed using the beams from the old church. Its flexible seating arrangement creates this lovely intimate space where we can interact with the divine. And lastly, we'll turn to Memorial Presbyterian in Rocky Mountain House. Their first building was built in 1922. There was no running water in that building, and if they had a church supper, the men had to carry the dishes down the street to another church member's house. In 1962, they built their current facility. One of the beautiful things about their sanctuary is this woven mural of the Rocky Mountains. It was designed by Margaret Sutherland and given as a gift by a former minister of theirs and his wife in 1979. It hides behind their projection screen, so I didn't even notice it was there at first. And if you want to see it, you just need to linger behind after worship. I feel that their sanctuary expresses a bit of the grandeur of God that we experience in the mountains. These three churches have similar histories. They're all built or rebuilt around the same time. However, they each have very different sanctuaries, which make different statements about the nature of God. For me, getting to travel between them, worship ends up feeling very different. It's special every time, it's just different. Even though we're all using the same liturgy and I'm preaching the same message. So I find that that's an interesting phenomenon, in that the building itself becomes part of the conversation we create when we worship. It helps to shape the style and expression of our worship. If you ever get the opportunity, I hope you someday check out each other's churches. I think we'd all find a lot of encouragement and inspiration from the experience. Each of our churches celebrating and worshiping the same God, but doing it slightly differently because of the buildings that we are in. I give praise to God for the beauty of each of our sanctuaries.